Runescape is going to launch a brand new game mode known as Fresh Start Worlds, but the way it's going to be implemented is worrying to say the least. In this video we'll talk features, details, and of course I'll share my opinion on this entire thing, so whenever you're ready grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax.
I want to listen to this while I get everything set back up.
If you enjoy all kinds of Runescape content and want to stay updated with the recent news, be sure to subscribe. Fresh Start Worlds is a limited time game mode coming to Runescape on
You know how it be.
lasting for a total of 4 months until January the 9th. The game client will be a complete reset from the current game we have, with new characters, a new economy, and of course new high scores. As it currently stands, these new characters will require a new account and therefore another email and an additional membership subscription. I'm not sure why, but Old School is also launching this event or game mode, and they have a free-to-play version for free-to-play players. This game mode will launch with our current game version and evolve alongside our main game with any new content the main game gets. So if there's a new boss coming in December, that will mean you'll be able to access that content in RuneScape Fresh Start Worlds as well. At the end of the ride, your Fresh Worlds account will be transferred to the main game, thus meaning you will not be able to choose usernames that are already taken in the main game when creating your new account. It is worth pointing out that Iron Man mode is not available in Fresh Start Worlds, so you'll only be able to make a normal account. With the game mode lasting 4 months, you'd expect at least some kind of bonuses, and you'd be right. The game mode will feature an experience modifier that increases incrementally per week up to a maximum of 3 times experience at the 8-week mark, with a 4 times experience modifier for skills below level 70, so that players joining mid-event or game mode can catch up. After the peak, the experience modifier will gradually decrease until it reaches normal levels at the end of the game mode. It also seems like you're going to have a permanent 20% chance to double your drops. As you play the game mode, you obtain progress points by completing quests, completing achievements, and of course leveling your skills. These progress points can be used to get rewards, but also buy permanent perks known as boons. The boon of experience, of which there's 5 different tiers or 5 boons, will provide you with 3 scrolls that will allow you to boost a skill under level 99 by 1. This may be useful for accessing certain quests or training methods that are not boostable by potions. The boon of endurance only really seems useful for early game play, as it provides you with infinite run energy. The boon of luck, ranging from tiers 1 to 4, will give you
That's interesting.
and a ring that gives you stall bonuses. The boons of plenty will provide you with MTX/treasure hunter items, which may be useful if they're very cheap in terms of progress points. The boon of healing will give you a bit of food that you can use every 5 minutes to heal 2,200 life points, which again may be useful for the early game, but doesn't seem that useful for the end game. The boon of regeneration seems useful for wave-based content, as you regenerate 5% life points, prayer points, and summoning points per 6 seconds outside of combat. The boon of banking allows you to place a portable bank box once per day, which may be useful for some niche methods like using keys or farming or training summoning, but I believe the boon of the porter is far more overpowered, as it provides you with a permanent 50% porter chance, so 50% banking chance, which is going to be amazing for all kinds of things skilling related. If you're going to be trading skills, the boon of the artisans, of which there are 2 tiers, are going to be amazing for saving supplies and getting all kinds of artisan skills related buffs. If PVM is more your thing, you're going to want to have the boon of ammo and the boon of ammo too, because you'll have a 25 or 50% chance to save ammunition and runes. The same goes for the boon of vigor, which will boost your life points, prayer points, and summoning points depending on what tier you currently have. Finally, there's a boon of skilling pets, which will double your chance of receiving skilling pets, which is great if you're going to want to farm those new versions of them, which are part of the rewards I'll be getting into in just a second. In terms of progress point milestone rewards, we have a legendary pet, hybrid armor that goes up to level 80, a hybrid weapon like a sun spear that can be switched between melee, ranged, and magic going up to level 80 as well, and a bunch of other non-progress point rewards. The rewards are obtained as a token which you can actually bring to the main game and then sell to players once. You cannot trade them on the Grand Exchange. The only items that can be traded multiple times are the halos, so they're an exception. So first of all, we have inverted skill capes. Basically 99 skill capes that have inverted color schemes. Those look really good. As far as I know, and I've asked a couple of JMods, it doesn't seem like they're going to be 120s unless they change their mind. Remember, this is still a month away. We then have skilling pets, except they have a halo above the head, again a tradable token that you can sell to other players, which is earned by actually getting the pet itself in the Fresh Worlds game mode. Now there's going to be 2 different halos you can obtain, one of which is the Halo of Returning, which you can obtain by getting 8 different milestone points. Now you get milestone points every 500 total levels, every 50 quest points, and every 2000 rune score. So let's say you get 200 quest points, that is 4 out of the 8 milestone points you need to get this halo. The other halo is the Challenger Halo, obtained by getting a World's First or by being in the top 100 of any skill's high scorers. And by a World First, they mean getting to a level 99 or on 20 in a skill first, or the first to quest and maxcape. Making an item like this tradable, in my opinion, is really strange because you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between someone who has actually earned this thing themselves or bought it because they had so much GP lying around in the main game. I'm talking about after this game mode ends. Perhaps that is what the fresh title reward is for. And for some reason, these halos can be taken to the main game early. Perhaps it's like a prize reward because the first players to receive these halos and to sell them in game are probably going to get a lot of money for them, above max cash because the GE hasn't been fixed yet, of course. And then they'll get merged to oblivion. So yeah, Party Hats 2.0. Now I think this game mode is purely a way for new players to get a head start, which in itself may not be that bad of an idea. In fact, it's simply going to be the best choice for anyone looking to try or return to RuneScape. Not only will training be faster, but you can also make some money from selling your rewards afterwards. It does of course beg the question, how many things are wrong in the game's design that are so bad that Jagex is willing to give new players a major boost to get them up to speed without spending money? I say this because Jagex seems to have removed any information about MTX being used in the first 8 weeks, so the competition part of this game mode, from the leaked version of their sign-up website thing. However, this doesn't mean that there won't be any MTX at all, because in the initial version it did say that bonds and rune coins would be buyable with IRL money in the first 8 weeks, it just wouldn't be treasure hunter keys. Now it says that treasure hunter keys will not be available in the first 8 weeks. But what about bonds? And what about rune coins? If bonds are available from day one, there's absolutely no reason for a competition, and it's not fair at all because players with a big wallet will be able to buy bonds, sell them for GP inside the game mode, and then buy all the supplies they need to train the Bibles. Let's say construction, you buy planks, by using IRL money. That's not fair, obviously. Microtransactions or not, and I really hope it's the latter, new and returning players are going to jump on this game mode without a doubt. Just like many players come and play during double XP. But what about us existing players? Well, first of all, what about new players? Well, if you just started playing in the last couple of weeks or months, you're screwed. You could have probably just done this and leveled up much faster. What if you're a mid to high level player? You already have a decent account and you don't want an alt account. What reason could you have to play this game mode if every single reward is going to be tradable anyway? How would I be able to tell the difference between someone who has grinded out and earned his alternative 99 cape to someone who just bought it off of his friend? If anything, this is just going to cause another wave of multi-loggers to farm these tokens and sell them because they're going to be making money from those tokens, but also making a bunch of strong alt accounts in far less time. Well, let's go back to the casual player that already has a decent Runescape account right now. Not only are you going to have to pay additional membership, but you're going to have to grind your ass off to get anywhere close to your original account that you have in the current game right now, if it has something like 2,000 total level.
Yeah, that's kind of bullshit, I'm not gonna lie.
This game mode is going to be worth playing for casual players that already have an existing account. If you're a hardcore player, you can probably get something out of it. But maybe that's what Jagex is going for. Maybe they really want this to just be for new and returning players to get a head start and get up to speed very quickly. At least when compared to normal playing. When pressing questions to the JMods about this game mode, it became clear that this is not supposed to be RuneScape 3 Leagues, but instead an experiment that they will heavily monitor to use for future events. But I really wish it was RuneScape 3 Leagues because it has so much potential to be fun and to attract new players. If this is really supposed to be part of the 300 million account milestone, I think it could be better. Turn it into a real RuneScape 3 limited time event. Turn up the experience buff to 10 times the experience, let the account die, give the experience gained as bonus experience or direct experience after the event ends to a main account. Let's say you gained 1 million experience, maybe keep 100 to 150,000 of that.
I like this guy's idea more.
On your main account after the event ends. The odds of you getting rare drops should be at least double, maybe even triple, just like OSRS links, because otherwise, you know, it's a limited time event. What are you even doing with your time there? a small increase isn't enough, but the items obtained should not be able to be carried over to the main game because otherwise the market will obviously crash. And no MTX. That's how I would like to see a RuneScape limited time event, but be sure to let me know what you think of what I said and what Jagex is doing in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Peace.
It's an ordinary Thursday. It's almost the end of the working week for Jagex, and a quiet one at that. The loyalty program was announced just a few hours ago, and as the morning blooms into the afternoon, two players named DataGuide 839 and Titanium enter the Stealing Creation minigame on World 158 and 119.
This video is brought to you by Manscaped. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their most precious assets. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the offer code SKILLUP at manscaped.com.
Piss off, Ralph.
Saints Row. This is not good. If you watch my preview of the game, you will know that I went in with an open mind. Initially excited about the prospect of a Saints Row reboot, that excitement was tempered by that preview window. I walked out thinking that this is probably going to be fine. Basically, I was expecting something pretty average. I didn't think I'd love it, but I didn't think I'd hate it. I really was not expecting something so aggressively bad in almost every aspect. Core gameplay, mission design, structure, technical polish, and in particular, narrative. The writing in this game is horrifically bad, and I can't remember the last time I played a game this badly written. Hard to know where to start with this one, but I think one starting point is to say that I don't think Deep Silver Volition were trying to pull the wool over our eyes with this one. I don't think they overhyped this. They didn't promise anything that wasn't delivered. They provided a lot of transparency in the lead up with gameplay trailers, a hands-on preview window, and a review window. As I said in my preview, I really value that because a lot of publishers and developers don't play it that way, and I think I'd be talking about this game in a very different way had Deep Silver Volition been more cagey in their marketing or crammed in a bullshit cash shop with XP boosters and currency packs and all the shit that pisses us off in a bunch of other titles. So full credit for that, but none of that changes the fact that this is a bad game, and I really regret the time I spent with it. To call this a reboot...
Yo, he is being super fucking harsh right now with it.
...is completely stuck in the past. This is the oldest feeling game I have played in years, and I play boomer shooters. This is a campaign that is 10 to 15 hours of Xbox 360 era third-person corridor shooting, and it's an open world so lifeless that it's almost as though the past 20 years of open world design doesn't exist.
Jesus.
The product is very, very bad, and this needed at least 6 months to iron out all of the graphical, audio, gameplay, and mission progress affecting bugs I encountered. More than that though, this game needed like another 12 months of playtesting because Saints Row is full of ideas that could have been okay, but each of them have one or more critical flaws that really make them awful. And more playtesting would have found those things so they could have been sanded back. The writing side of this equation, there's no salvaging that. Characters, narrative, plot, pacing, antagonists, it's a complete disaster. Had this game an actual plot, or had the moment-to-moment dialogue not been so cringe-inducing, I might have been able to go along with this. But when the reward for really repetitive, buggy gameplay are these painful cutscenes that make your eyes roll every single time, that's the thing that makes you go, oh man, I can't do this. And in fact, I almost quit this game about 2/3 of the way through because I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But I kept going for completeness sake, and yeah, the ending managed to be even worse than I could have anticipated. Oh god. Alright, so let's talk about this properly. Here's why I don't recommend Saints Row. We'll talk technical first. I reviewed Saints Row on PC, RTX 2080 Ti, and AMD Ryzen 30.
It can't. There's no way it's as bad as he's saying.
Including max settings ray tracing.
I like Saints Row, all of them.
Pretty damn well.
Even Get Out of Hell.
Around 80 FPS when cruising around the city. When action would get really thick, that would drop to a floor of around 60, generally speaking. 98% of my experience was that. There were a few minor instances, usually localized to the desert locations, where frame rate would chug down to as low as 40 FPS, but like I said, that was rare, and my overall experience with Saints Row is that it's a well-optimized PC port, at least on my hardware. The preview build, which I played on a laptop, was similarly good. Now, not to take away from that, because a well-optimized PC port is rarer than you might think, but I would hope it runs well, because Saints Row doesn't look particularly great. This is a title that is also shipping to PS4 and Xbox One, and rather than making a current-gen looking game and then scaling it back, Volition essentially made a last-gen looking game and then made it playable across all platforms. Characters like detail, textures are extremely flat, and lighting is completely incapable of creating depth within a scene. Lighting in this game is essentially binary, like it's on or it's off, and while that's somewhat masked by the heavy use of high-contrast neon outside, internal spaces really suffer. You do want some highlights somewhere to draw your eye towards some environmental detail, and that just never happens. Every space seems to meld together in your mind as a result. I really can't recall any beautiful, well-lit scene in this game that wasn't entirely propped up by neon piping and glow sticks. That's a neat segue into a broader problem with Santo Alesso, which is that the city really lacks visual distinctiveness. It is subdivided into areas, low-rise, mixed industrial, high-rise downtown, a Beverly Hills type zone, fairly large expanse of desert encircling everything.
Like, there's no way it's worse than Crackdown 3, right?
Look different. They never look interesting. Just as I can't recall a beautifully lit internal scene, I really struggle to recall standout landmarks, boroughs, precincts, buildings, anything. Volition have built a set of high-rises that are just a set of high-rises. They've built low-rises that are just a bunch of buildings and turnpikes. And they built a desert that really is just a desert. Far more terminal than how last-gen the graphics might look is the fact that the overall art design of Santo Alesso leaves no mark on you whatsoever. One thing that makes these spaces even more difficult to take in is pop-in. If you've watched me for a while, you'd know that I'm pretty chill when it comes to this sort of stuff. I don't really care that much if a game has pop-in, unless it's directly affecting the game, and I think this is directly affecting the game. Pop-in in Saints Row is so common and so noticeable that it becomes this permanent distraction when you're exploring the city. Buildings, signage, cars, people, trees, ground clutter, texture detail, all of it is aggressively popping in all the time, so rather than take in the sights of the city, your eye is constantly drawn to this pop-in since it's constantly flashing up before you. And I will remind you that this was on max settings. I mean, if this was on low draw distance setting, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. If this game looked incredibly detailed with amazing lighting, I'd be like, okay, well that's the trade-off. But you've got a game that looks as basic as this, while also having this terrible pop-in, and with no option to improve it, even on high-end systems, and that sucks. This is made even worse by the fact that Santo Alesso feels eerily empty, something I'll talk more about later. But Santo Alesso is not teeming with foot traffic, or car traffic, or dynamic events, or anything. It always feels like a ghost town. Spider-Man on PC had vastly more going on the ground than Saints Row does, and you're not even meant to be on the ground very much in Spider-Man. Again, I could understand this looking more basic or having these draw distances if there was a lot going on, but there isn't. So makes Saints Row look very, very last gen, an impression that is more than mirrored in its gameplay. Before we talk about that though, we really need to talk about the bugs. This is brutal, so just for context.
Come on, open the door and let's see what's in the ruins.
Ooh.
This is amazing. We may be the first people to come down here for 100 years. This must be the Chamber of Shrines. The senior wizards used it as a meeting room, and wizards joining the tower would pledge allegiance to one of the 4 orders here. I've read about it, but I never thought I'd see it. The greatest magical innovators of Gielinor once walked this room. I wish we could spend more time exploring the ruins. If I can, I'll stay down here after we've done what we came for. We need to get deeper into the ruins to the source of the power beam. It looks like that rune guardian is blocking the door.
I don't know how you could reach 120 on a fucking skill.
I had 3 separate reviewers reach out to me during the review window and be like, hey man, are you finding Saints Row really buggy? That is rare and concerning, because it told me that the experience I was having was likely a very common experience. The first bug I encountered was at startup, and it was a persistent bug I encountered whenever I opened the game. It gave me some random error about Epic Game Store permission or some shit. There were no permissions to accept, but it kept saying to accept permissions. The way I fixed this was just repeatedly opening and closing it, and then it eventually would work. So I had to spend 10 minutes clicking this button every time I restarted the game. Audio in this game is very buggy. Certain sound effects would bug out either during gameplay or in cutscenes like this. Some effects would queue and cut off really suddenly like this.
It's done.
The biggest audio issue though is that the soundscape in this game just feels really flat. Scenes that feel like they should have music don't, and a lot of sound effects really lack impact. I mean, this scene is a perfect example of both of those things, where I'm going through this big action sequence with no music, and my tactical shotgun sounds like it's shooting soggy paintballs. Hit registration during combat is very annoying because enemies will often become immune when they enter certain animations. Here's an example. Often certain mechanics just don't work. Here I am desperately spamming the finisher button, but it's just not doing anything for no reason at all. This bug happens a lot. One time I was doing a mission and the cops were spawning in and I had to kill them. Okay, fair enough. After 2 waves of cops, a third spawns in and I couldn't find them. Eventually, I did. They were up here on the overpass. The great thing about where they spawned
Oh no.
is I couldn't shoot them. If I ran towards either end of the overpass, the mission would declare it out of bounds and I failed. Eventually, I did kill them with some cheesy head glitch bullshit, but God, I was very mad here. This game is littered.
And see, it's that kind of shit that I can't stand in games.
Some of them occur in cutscenes, like this disappearing waft.
I was worried that he was going to go down this road, and the type of things that he is describing right now really actually kind of flips that switch in my mind and has me worried about it.
Full. That's a minor one though. The next one is a massive spoiler, so I want to give a really clear warning. It's from one of the most pivotal moments in the entire game, and I'm only showing it to you because it is so bad, and it really shows just how not ready this game is for launch. To have a moment like this play out this way. If you're going to play this game, do not watch this, please. Visual glitches also have an impact on actual gameplay. The most regular and the most fucking annoying one is that red enemy health bars will often flash yellow. Now this is a very big deal because yellow bar enemies are priorities. They have more health and you can't use your finisher on them. So seeing a yellow bar enemy is important. You pay attention to that because the
Wizard, you have proved yourself worthy. All that remains is to determine the order to which you will belong. Are you ready to be tested?
It thinks we're new wizards joining the tower. Originally, you wouldn't be able to get to this room without passing the entry tests. It's a rune guardian. The secret of making them was lost when the old tower was destroyed. It must have been standing at that door for 100 years.
I will ask you a series of questions. Your answers will reveal the order to which you are best suited. If you disagree with your allocation, you may take the test again. The first question. You are behind in your studies due to illness, and a test is coming up. Your place at the tower is safe. But if you fail, you will lose some respect. Another apprentice offers you an opportunity to cheat. The second question. An elderly wizard, the last practitioner of a unique branch of magic, dies. Her diary might contain details about her unique magic, but her will states that the diary should be destroyed on her death. The third question. A rival wizard is spreading lies about you and has made you the laughing stock of a nearby village. They believe you are of low intelligence and poor moral character, and throw vegetables at you when you visit. The fourth question.
But there was only 3 questions.
The wizard and are asked to take on an apprentice. The boy is talented but undisciplined and does not apply himself outside his areas of interest. What is your approach? The fifth question. A senior wizard asked you to take part in a ritual that will greatly benefit the tower. Before the ritual starts, you discover that he learned part of it from a demon. The ritual appears safe, but demons are expert liars. Welcome, Grey Wizard.
KZJ the Grey. AZJ the Grey.
I wish we had more time to explore these ruins. The old tower was made up of wizards from all over the world, with wildly different philosophies of magic. They arranged themselves into 4 orders dedicated to different gods: blue, green, red, and grey. The blue wizards worshipped Saradomin, god of goodness and order. He's the most widely worshipped god in human lands. The blue wizards believed magic could be used to help people and focused on non-combat spells. They invented most of the enchantment spells in the standard spellbook we use today. After the first tower was destroyed, it was the surviving blue wizards who rebuilt it. The new tower is still a Saradominist institution, although these days a lot of wizards only pay lip service to the religion. The green wizards worshipped Guthix, god of nature and balance. According to the druids, Guthix created the world and then entered a deep sleep. Before the rise of our current civilization, the other gods went to war with one another for control of the world. After millennia of fighting, Guthix awoke and banished them, so they could no longer intervene directly.
It's kind of, this reminds me of the sorting hat from Harry Potter. It's cool. I wonder if you always get gray, or if those questions actually matter and it sorts you accordingly. I bet that's how it is, especially because it gave my character a title. I bet it'll actually sort you based on the answer to those questions. I don't think it just gives every player gray.
It was a follower of Guthix who discovered the rune essence, and the Green Wizards were the Old Tower's experts on rune crafting. Their statue depicts their founder transmuting a lump of rune essence into a stack of runes. The Red Wizards worshipped Zamorak. Most people today see Zamorak as a god of evil, but for the Red Wizards, he was a god of chaos, personal strength, and creativity. Legend has it that Zamorak was once mortal, but he stole the staff of a god called Armadil and used it to ascend into godhood. Their statue holds a staff in memory of that. The Red Wizards focused on destructive spells, especially ones involving fire. They invented most of the battle spells that made their way into today's standard spellbook.
Most of the battle spells.
There are other gods besides Saradomin, Guthix, and Zamorak. The Grey Wizards were those who worshipped lesser-known gods, such as Armadil or the Menaphite pantheon, or were non-religious. The Grey Wizards didn't invent many spells, but they made some of the greatest contributions to pure magical theory. Their statue's sword symbolizes a sharp mind cutting into the heart of a matter.
Well, that was fucking vague. They had paragraphs of detail on the other orders and what they worshipped, and they just have this vague ass description for the Grey Order. That doesn't make much sense.
We need to get deeper into the ruins to the source of the power beam. It looks like that rune guardian is blocking the door. I guess we'll need to find a way across here. It's not as simple as that. Each teleport spell goes to one specific location. Creating a new one can take years of research. It took the wizards of the Old Tower decades to crack the teleportation problem. It wasn't solved until shortly before the Old Tower's destruction. Maybe you could, but I'm not risking it. We need to find a safe way for us to both get across.
What is this, Prince of Persia?
The thing that attacked Wizard Boren came up the power beam from the ruins. I don't want to risk touching it until we've investigated.
Okay, that's fair. I ain't even gonna lie.
Hey, what are you doing?
It is Prince of Persia.
That's a statue of Eratona the Green, who negotiated the treaties with local rulers that let the wizards transport runes from the Essence Mine. You can't just push her statue down. Well, no, but be careful, okay? Try not to damage the statue.
Fuck your statue, lady. Okay, we're in a bit of a hurry here.
I can't believe you had to knock down a statue to get us across that gap. Well, it's done now, so we might as well use it. Just be careful not to damage the statue further. Maybe it can be repaired one day. This is it. The heart of the old tower. The central spellcasting chamber where the old wizards performed their most powerful rituals. It's amazing. I never imagined I'd see it in person. So do I. Most of the spells we used today were invented in this room. Wizards of all 4 orders cooperated for the sake of magical research. These vortices look like the one that attacked Wizard Boren. I want to find out what they are. I'll need you to attract the vortex into this circle and keep it there while I examine it.
Oh, come back. Come back, come back. Oh, this is tedious as all hell. Come on. Come on. Ah.
ghosts. At first, I thought they might be ghosts, but they're soul fragments. I've heard about putting part of yourself into your work, but the old wizards literally put part of their souls into the power beam. They must have wanted to create a very powerful magical effect. I don't know what they were trying to do, but whatever it was, it went wrong. Do you know what this is? I think this is what destroyed the first tower. I think there was an enchantment keeping the vortices here, but someone has removed it. Now, they're able to go up the beam to the new tower, and you saw the trouble they can cause. I can't tell, but it happened recently, within the last few days.
I know who I think it is. Sheridan or whoever, you know what I mean.
It looks like we weren't the first people to
The head wizard. That's why. That's why it was quiet on stream.
They're not ghosts. At first, I've heard about putting part of your... They must have wanted to... Do you know what this is? I think there was an enchant... I can't tell, but it happened... It looks like we weren't the first people to come down here after all. I can replace the enchantment that was keeping the vortices here, but it'll take some time. While I do it, you need to go back to the new tower and delay Cedridor's casting of his Icenic Purge. The Icenic Purge floods the tower with energy, but these vortices are attracted to magic. All it'll do is draw them up into the tower and make it impossible to get rid of them.
Ah, fuck.
I can restore the enchantment that kept the vortices in the ruins, but I need to do it while they're still here. I don't know, but I'm sure you can think of something. If he's casting an Icenic Purge, he'll probably be in the library on the ground floor.
Open. Open the door. Charles, have you opened the door? Oh, shit. Open the door. It's cold outside.
Please be quiet, adventurer. My assistant and I are casting an Icenic Purge, and we must have silence in order to concentrate. Please be quiet, adventurer. Greetings, human. Please don't do that, adventurer. The Icenic Purge is in a critical stage, and it is essential that all participants be able to concentrate. Adventurer, I must insist that you step away from that organ.
Yo, these cutscenes are fucking dope. Like, top quality, triple A stuff.
Break my concentration once more, and you will feel the wrath of the Grand Archmage of the Reborn Tower. The purge is complete. Thank you, fellow wizards. Whatever these entities were, they could not have survived such a powerful wave of magic.
Uh-huh.
Adventurer, I suggest you leave the library and find your friend Ariane. Tell her not to worry. We have dealt with the problem without any help.
Ignorant. Yeah, I mean, how accurate is that, though? Honestly. People always taking your credit.
It was close, but I managed to restore the enchantment. The vortices are trapped in the ruins again. Thanks for your help, adventurer. I couldn't have done this without you. Thanks again for helping me get down there and restore the enchantment. Well, thanks again. I found some things in the ruins you might be interested in. They're yours if you want them. I'm going to head back down to the ruins to study the vortices. I want to find out what happened to the old tower and who released the vortices from the ruins. Meet me down there if you want to help.
Or wizard titles. I don't even know what that means. Like, honestly, a title? Like how I'm Hazy J the Grey? Rune crafting. I dig it, yo. I dig it. So she has another quest down there, maybe? Rune memories. This used to just be one quest. Rune mysteries. Rune memories just used to be a part of rune mysteries. That's interesting. I no longer need this stuff. I'll talk to that old man. Oh, that's interesting. It'll go on my bookshelves at my house. Man, that is exactly what I needed to know, my man. So who is Diango? He can supposedly hold my mask. Item retrieval. Um... Well, fuck. I think I'll just put it in my bank, dude. I gotta look into that. Oh, yo, where'd those runes go that she gave me? The server's usually full. I wonder if that's showing up for anybody else or just me.
The game is built around them, and yet, owing to a bug, red enemy health bars will often just flicker yellow for a split second, and you're constantly checking these targets only to find that they were not yellow at all, and the game is just wasting your time. This happens in like 50% of the combat encounters. It's so annoying, and while this game is playable despite this, I would absolutely classify this as a game-breaking bug. It's that disruptive. There is a persistent glitch when you enter flying vehicles. For some reason, the camera zooms in an absurd amount like this. You can't change that, so you then have to just get out of the vehicle. That's fine, except for this mission, where it occurred again, and I couldn't get out of the vehicle because it was a mission sequence, and restarting the checkpoint wouldn't fix it, and I was 20 minutes deep into this mission. I did not want to restart my game and have to do all of that all over again, since checkpoint progress isn't saved when you close your game. So I had to do the rest of the mission like this. It was truly terrible. Sometimes you can't fucking do anything other than move because all of the inputs are disabled. This happened to me on more than one occasion, but twice during the mission, and both times I had to restart the mission I was on because reloading the checkpoint didn't fix it. In this one example, I was already like 15 minutes deep on this mission. I was so pissed off when this happened that when it did, that's when I chose to quit Saints Row. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. But then I came back, like I said, but I was very, very done with Saints Row. More fundamentally, controls are, I don't want to say bugged, but they feel bugged. So using a controller to aim in this game feels terrible. And I really couldn't understand why until this moment when I was standing at a shooting range trying to track targets. I noticed that the cursor would move at different speeds even when I was inputting identical movement inputs. This is me moving my analog stick left and right over and over again, same pace each time. Sometimes you'll see that it's really fast, and sometimes it's really slow. There's no explanation for why that changes, but imagine trying to aim with that. That's what I did for 15 hours, and it was awful. This commentary on the state of the controls was shared by a number of people during the previous cycle, so I know I'm not alone in this. Overall, Saints Row is unattractive to look at, both in terms of its technical fundamentals and its artistic design. It feels overly held back by last-gen hardware, without any effort put in to take advantage of current-gen consoles and GPUs. Santo Alesso lacks flourish and personality, and it feels like a ghost town. The game itself is buggy as hell, with a wide variety of immersion, mission, and game-breaking bugs. If you are ever planning on playing Saints Row, I strongly recommend holding off for at least 6 to 12 months, as Volition will need at least that length of time to properly fix everything that's broken here.
The Saints. They call ourselves the Saints.
They call us the Saints. We're the Saints. Can we wear the purple and stuff?
Are gone, and in their stead we have these people. We'll talk more about them soon, but let's talk about you first. You do get to create your own boss, and Saints Row is a very flexible character creation tool. There are no limits, and I went wild. I decided that my boss would essentially be the Wicked Witch of the West, which seemed like a good idea at the time, but then it resulted in scenes like this.
I can tell you love it.
Okay. I don't have to love it. I have to pay my student loans. Amen.
Realizing that it would be absolutely impossible to take any part of this game's narrative seriously if I played a character that looks like this, I quickly reverted to a more traditional looking character that retained the British accent. Not a great choice. It's pretty rare to find bad voice work in games these days, I think. The standard is so much higher than it was even 5 years ago. This voice acting is not good. The character sounds ridiculously out of place in every scene. I actually don't think it's the voice actress's fault, by the way. It's more the writing and the direction. I spoke to my friend Lucy James about this, and she said it sounds like this person belongs in a different video game, and she was totally spot on.
Man, I'd hate to be the elders right now. Everyone at that party is probably going to get killed. Folks to be kept in Eli. Yeah. Oh, shit. Gotta go.
So with the old crew gone, let's meet their replacements. This is Nina. She's an art history major who wants to break into the art curation scene, but she's finding it tough. So she's also a member of a murderous criminal gang called Los Panteros. This is Kev. He substitutes not wearing a shirt for a personality. He wants to be a DJ, or he is a DJ, but he's also part of a criminal gang called the Idols who want to overthrow capitalism while wearing Daft Punk helmets and throwing cool dance parties in the desert. And this is Eli. He wears a bow tie, he doesn't like to shoot people, he's really smart, and he listens to self-help audiobooks a lot. So as I mentioned in the preview, I went in with an open mind with these characters. They aren't the typical badass crime people who are badasses and who do crimes. They're younger, and they're all really nice people. Like, they'd help an old lady cross the street. And they're educated hipster nerds who probably take photos of their acai bowl and spiced chai latte breakfast to post on Instagram. For the record, I don't think the problem with these characters is their starting point. There's lots of ways to do anti-heroes, from Tony Soprano to Harley Quinn to Walter White to Wario. There would have been a path forward for each of these characters to make them cool and badass and really make you feel like you're hanging out with a group of dangerous, ruthless, winner-takes-all criminal entrepreneurs. But if such a path exists, Saints Row writers certainly didn't find it. These characters are so awful. Hollow, facile, sock puppets. There is nothing to them. There's no emotional depth, no real personality beyond their surface level gimmick, no wisdom, no humor, nothing. They are the rough sketch that an artist might paint in a brainstorming session, so one-dimensional and superficial that you wouldn't even call them a draft. And then the writers try to awkwardly fill these scarecrows with some straw, and it always comes off so ridiculous. Like, there's this one mission where Kevin asks you to run around to get him a Happy Meal toy. And you're like, okay, well, that's kind of dumb, but whatever, let's go with it. And eventually he's like, oh, well, I was an orphan, and I never got to the orphanage. And at the end of the mission, you steal a bunch of them, after murdering like 50 people, and then this exchange happens.
There. You are the proud owner of 500 limited edition.
Nah, I just want one. Maybe sometime you could help me bring the rest down to the county orphanage?
Now listen, I have feelings, I'm not made of stone, but my dude, you are a mass murderer! By this point, Kevin has already killed thousands of
I didn't actually get XP for that because I didn't damage it at all.
fucking orphanage. There's other examples.
That is a waste.
So desperate to show the sensitive side of these characters as a means of giving them some backstory, some depth, but it comes off as the most ridiculous, supercharged ludonarrative dissonance ever, like Uncharted, if it sucked. And that's the thing, right? You still loved Nate and felt his feels even though he was a mass murderer as well, because the character and the narrative has been probably built to reconcile all of these narrative tensions or to help you conveniently forget them. But here, these characters oscillate so wildly and so regularly between concerned, moralizing, emotionally needy influences to cold-blooded, sociopathic mass murderers that it's impossible to take either side of that equation seriously. This is one scene where a lawyer delivers you some court papers.
Oh my god, he's right.
Of course I'm right. I wrote the fine print myself.
unarmed civilian, gunned down in cold blood, and this is just a few minutes after this scene.
Hey, we had a big win today. We should do something irresponsible to celebrate.
What do you have in mind?
Oh, I don't know, the money fight!
Oh no, the voice acting is really that bad. It is really that bad, dude. What? Oh. It's double A as fuck.
This is one of the many examples of the game trying to show some affection between the group members. There's a lot of these, and they are all this goofy. Part of what I spoke about is
All this goofy.
you never find out how these four people came together. You are not properly introduced to any of these characters, and so this familiarity that you see, it's annoying because it's almost like the game kind of assumes that you already like these people and want to hang out with them when you do not. Shifting to a new cast of characters who are so different from the previous game without giving any of those characters a proper introduction is a very bad call, and the game never recovers from it. Outside of these characters, the game's overall tone is weird. I think it's probably best demonstrated by this speech, which seems to indicate that the Saints are about overcoming the constraints imposed by middle managers or something.
Life is hard enough without having to deal with little managers, with no discernible time to tell you how to do your job. Without having to deal with assholes who have had every opportunity handed to them, but never had to fucking work for a single one of them.
This is one of the game's awkward narrative through lines. The idea that the Saints exist as a response to student loans and rent and millennials being told to wait their turn. Again, there would have been a way to...
Oh, shut up, dude.
Within the context of this game, like Eli's bow tie, it's just window dressing as a stand-in for substance. Other than the briefest, most fleeting references to things like late-stage capitalism or corporate greed, there's nothing insightful or humorous said on these subjects. I'm not expecting Saints Row to be Pulitzer Prize-winning literature. I'm not expecting it to win 4th place at the local book club's quarterly literary slam. But if you're going to brush up against these subjects, then at least do something with them. The overall narrative of this game is no better. It lacks clear plot with a beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't have distinct acts punctuated with notable events. None of the characters have personal arcs within the overall storyline. There are some antagonists, sort of, but only one of them is properly introduced. The others are just kind of there, and you don't even know you're about to bring them down until it happens. I really genuinely never knew at any point where I might be in the overall storyline of this game, because in the absence of clear goals, clear villains, and clear acts, the whole thing feels so adrift. When I got to the last mission, I was like, oh, last mission. Oh, okay, sure. I didn't see that coming, because the story was never building to anything in a coherent way. So this is a really damning assessment of this stuff, but it all really gets to you because it's so relentless. Every single mission is the same concoction of annoying characters spouting bad dialogue while you do something that doesn't clearly fit into a bigger picture because there is no bigger picture. Like, listen to this.
This is gonna be an epic statement. That yacht's guarded AF.
Dude, did you just say AF?
Yeah, an abbreviation.
First, we fucking swear all the time. Second, it's only an abbreviation when texting. AF, as fuck, same number of syllables.
Okay, fine.
That's so bad, dude. That writing is so bad.
As fuck.
And every bleeding one of them is going to learn what happens when you try to blow up the site.
Hells yeah!
Now, imagine having to listen to that for 15 or more hours. That is Saints Row. Already been pretty brutal on both a technical and writing front. I wish I had better news for you on the gameplay side of things, but I do not. As one note and one-dimensional as Saints Row's characters are, so too is its open world design, structure, mission design, and open world gameplay. I've already spoken briefly about how lifeless Santo Alesso feels as you move through it. This is reflected in how it plays as well. Santo Alesso is completely absent any sort of dynamic event that might interrupt your regular thoroughfare. It's a city of rival gangs, but zero rival gang fights. It's a city of hustlers, but nothing of note is ever taking place on the sidewalk that might grab your attention. There aren't random police car chases, or bank heists, or carjackings, or street races. Nothing goes on in the streets of Santo Alesso other than what you make happen. So, if there's nothing dynamic going on, what about the scripted events that take place at map markers? Well, there are a lot of map markers, sure. Some of them involve running around to dumpsters and clicking on them so you can find some trash in the dumpster. Sometimes pallets of drugs are left on the street and you just collect them by clicking on them. There are these history of Santo Alesso things that you can find to make you stand and listen to boring exposition for 30 seconds. And you do that 5 times and then you get some cash.
Did you know the Grand Prix is a celebration of innovation, ingenuity, and industry?
There are side hustles like being a getaway driver, for example, or flying a wingsuit around town for a bit. They're fine, but they're really just less interesting versions of the same stuff you do in the main missions, and they're pretty skippable. The headline feature of the open world is the Criminal Empire stuff. After a few hours, you get access to this map that lets you set up fronts to generate cash. Each one of them is essentially a hub for side quests, where you steal things as a repo driver, or you jack cars for a chop shop, or you jump in front of traffic for insurance money. When I encountered these things, I really imagined that each one would be its own unique quest line with different types of missions to do. That is not it. Each one represents one type of mission that you have to do multiple times. So I had to steal a car, cool, and then I had to steal 10 more cars. Each time it was the same. I would just drive over to it, I would press a button and get in it, I would start driving, the police or some gang members would suddenly appear, they'd follow me all the way home, I would park the car, and that was it. Every single time, 10 times. Same goes for the insurance thing. The first time you do this, it's pretty fun. Then you need to do it 6 more times. It's always exactly the same, just at a different intersection. Furthermore, to progress the main story, you need to complete at least 2 of these criminal ventures. So at one point, you find yourself stealing 10 cars in a
Might as well do the agility dummy, considering I have the Silverhawk boots on. I'll just grind out agility.
Given how repetitive these ventures are, building this stuff into the main campaign was a bad idea, and it really took the fun out of these things. Though in the case of robbing cars and just driving them somewhere, there wasn't that much fun to begin with. Brings us to the main missions. This was the part of the game I was probably most pissed off with. There is an astounding lack of imagination with regards to mission writing. 98% of the missions you do are all drive here, oh shit, some bad guys appeared, let's shoot them. You shoot them and that's the mission. Already I can hear people being like, well, you could say the same as Halo. Yeah, you could, but you know what? Halo's good, and this is not. This is really shitty third-person shooting that would have felt dated at the tail end of the PS3 era. Like I said in my preview, you can't even switch shoulder perspective. There's no proper melee combat system. The weapons are as bog standard as you can get, and when they try and get funky with their design, they become almost unusable for how clunky they are. With core gameplay this week, you really need to have interesting mission design, and that is so absent here that it's alarming. There's always some narrative window dressing to get you to a place, but when you get there, it's just shooting people or driving a car, or shooting people when driving a car, or driving a car while your buddies shoot people, like this riveting sequence.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Oh my god, there's so many of them! But come on, chill up, is it really that bad? Yes, it definitely is. I feel like Far Cry is a really important point of comparison here because Far Cry gets a lot of shit for being pretty played out these days. Like, we've seen this formula since Far Cry 3, it's time to update it, etc. That commentary is accurate, but I do think it doesn't give enough credit to just how much work goes into Far Cry's mission design, encounter design, and core combat. All of those things in Far Cry are excellent. Far Cry Sandbox is so strong that it's able to regularly produce action that looks pre-scripted when it's not. And when you combine that with Far Cry's innovative mission design, you often get fantastic sequences that few games can match. If the best moments in a Far Cry mission can hit 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10 in terms of spectacle and intensity, while still remaining fully playable, then the best Saints Row ever produces is like 2 or 3 tops. The core gameplay mechanics are so weak they will leave you fixated on how underbaked and repetitive the mission design is.
Come on with this fucking music, bro.
Features peppered throughout Saints Row. There's the ability to customize every car in great detail. Same with every weapon. Both weapons and vehicles have signature abilities that are unlocked after completing certain challenges. Want your car to be able to do barrel rolls? There's a signature ability for that. You can decorate your base. I like to put porta potties everywhere. There's the ability to summon your companions to you in the open world.
God damn.
Bounty app, allowing you to track wanted targets for some quick cash. There's so much, to be honest, and in any other number of games, it would be really impressive. But here, I kind of wish this stuff didn't exist, because obviously a huge amount of effort went into creating it, and that effort could have been directed towards fixing this game's core issues. Bugs is the most obvious and immediate. This game needed fewer boondoggles and more time in the oven to make it actually playable. It needed a complete rethinking of its open world design philosophy to bring it into the modern era. It needed a completely different cast of characters and an entirely new script. It needed way more diversity in terms of mission design, and it needed significant renovations to its core combat mechanics. I don't like being this brutal, but this is a very poor title, and I absolutely do not recommend it. Gentlemen, have you heard the good word? It's smooth, sad.
So I could turn this into like planks.
Europeans and Americans. Down here in Australia, it's still wild and wiry winter, and believe me, you don't want any screenshots of that. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're scaped from pubes to bum with Manscaped, the leader in below the belt grooming. If you're just beginning your intimate grooming journey, then can I recommend the...
Oh, shut the fuck up. That's goofy. That's so goofy. really like how they've decorated this area up for the celebration. Too bad most of those are bots. 300 million accounts registered. And you know what? I think around 80,000 of them are actually people who play the game. It's oh fuck, I'm already here. lava. Guess there was just too many people over there, or too many people with dummies. Damn it. I don't understand people that put 3 dummies out. Like, what's the point? Are you wasting them? Aren't they on a timer? You don't kill them. Maybe some people just have so many of them that they don't give a fuck. Just like, yep, I can literally put these out all day and still have a million, you know, XP worth. Always get distracted by skilling. I was supposed to be doing that fucking quest. Oh no. More people.
Saints Row is an embarrassing, buggy mess. Another in an increasingly long list of reboots and remakes that are worse than the games they're based off. When I was coming up with titles for this video, I was thinking things along the lines of Saints Row 76 or Saints Row 2077 because that's truly what it feels like at times. It's really another one of those instances where a developer is releasing a game that's like 80% finished. And while history has shown that these games can eventually be turned around, I don't think that excuses this being yet another busted game that
Nor do I think it'll actually be turned around.
How does it feel to have lived?
THQ Nordic is gonna put this game out and be done with it.
Feels great.
Now it's kind of weird when trying to make comparisons with this reboot.
It's not a live platform game.
About as schizophrenic as they come. I mean, the gameplay in the first game, for instance, is going to be...
And the issues are fundamental. You know, voice acting, writing, you can't patch that out.
A pretty consistent theme of the game being fun and not taking themselves too seriously. I know the argument about whether 2 or 3 were better is a long-running one, but Saints Row 3 is the one that I had the most fun with, personally, and along with the second game, I'd argue it's when the series really peaked.
I will wreck this one pretty fast.
So if we use either of those as the poster child for how to make a Saints Row game, well then I think that it's safe to say this reboot fails in almost every single aspect.
Well, that was really a stupid thing!
Even from the get-go, trying to self-insert into the game here was just an absolute mission. And I say that because I think this has to be one of the worst character creators that I've ever seen. I know this might be good news for people who think it's funny to create ugly characters, but can someone explain to me why even the preset face models somehow look like they've gone through the randomizer in Elder Scrolls Oblivion? I'm not kidding either, these are preset faces, and who in their right mind is going to choose something like this?
What is that?
In the old games, I'd usually pick a preset character and then build something off the back of that, but even the presets in this are still awful. Looking like the kind of people who don't play video games but are still offended by them. Also, in the first example of this game,
That's who made this game.
you can now modify your appearance.
Not RuneScape, but Saints Row.
This app in your smartphone. Yeah, never mind going to the plastic surgeons that have been a staple of the series, you know, since its inception. When it comes to the wacky outfits and fun clothes, you know, another long-running staple, don't hold your breath either. The cosmetics this time are incredibly limited, and at best, you're gonna feel like you're playing dress up as a gangster, you know, as opposed to actually being one. And that right there is the entire vibe that I get from this reboot. It's kind of like a sheep in wolf's clothing, if that makes sense, desperately trying to pass itself off as cool and hip.
Good call. Showtime.
And I feel like I could end the video right here, but to be honest, I'm just getting started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I hate YouTubers so fucking much.
Visually, it looks like something from the Xbox 360. Now, I know that people say that a lot these days to describe dated graphics, but it's really true this time. And you'll see that a lot here with some of the character models, most of which just look really bad. The main cast do look detailed enough, but almost every single other NPC you come across looks really crappy. And the other members of the Saints just look awful. I mean, this guy here looks like Titan from Megamind. How they all look took to the Saints in the third game. You know what the visuals here really reminded me of? It reminds me of those crappy remake videos you see on YouTube. You know, where someone takes a bunch of stock assets off the Unreal Engine library and then remakes something like Grand Theft Auto or Max Payne. And as a result, it ends up looking completely soulless, like it's been created by a machine. Yeah, you know that? Well, that's what the world feels like here. It may be vast, but it's also empty, boring.
It's not good.
You'll frequently drive through empty streets and walk down random side alleys, and you'll come across empty restaurants, markets, and bars. Like someone added all this stuff into the world, but then they just forgot to populate it. Whether or not the game looks good or bad also often seems to be dependent on the time of day. I mean, it does look good during sunrise and sunset, but in low light conditions and at night time, the whole thing just looks awful. What's really the most entertaining here though are the physics, which are just so broken and absurd that it's just downright hilarious at times. I'd like to think that this stuff has been done intentionally, but it's just so janky and busted that I think what's more likely is that it's just something that someone's overlooked. Like the physics you see when you blow up vehicles honestly defies the laws of nature. Shoot a car with an RPG, for instance, and you can see the weird way the car is propelled forward, and you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that that's not how physics work.
Hang on,
What I find funniest, I think, is how every time you blow up a vehicle, you just see these ragdoll corpses fly off into the sky, and it's always done in this incredibly bizarre and over-the-top fashion. Now look, I know that these games have always been a bit wacky, but there's still been like some sense of restraint here when it comes to the game obeying the laws of nature. You know, as opposed to it looking like a complete jank fest. During the many car chases in the game, you'll notice how pursuing cars ram into other vehicles and don't lose momentum at all. You know, they just push these cars out of their way like those cars are made out of cotton candy. I mean, do I really have to pull out an old comparison clip from a game like Grand Theft Auto to show just how dumb this is? There's stuff that goes on in this game that was so random that I had to clip it and then go back just to figure out what actually happened. Like, it's so random sometimes that if you blink, you're gonna miss what actually went on. I mean, like, check this out for instance, right? This bollard thing came out of the ground over there, flew out and then hit that telegraph pole, which sent that thing out in the sky. You know what? I'm gonna say that you could drive into a million bollards for a million years and never see that happen in real life. And yet these are the kind of reality-defying physics you will regularly see when playing this.
Power that the world wants you to know.
I know people give developers like Ubisoft a lot of shit for their games, but credit where it's due, man. I don't think they've ever made a game world this busted. Well, apart from Assassin's Creed Unity. Kind of reminds me of playing a game like Postal 4, only that was a game where the world was kind of broken ironically. I just don't think Volition set out to create a game world that feels like something out of an early access game.
Yeah, that's a bit odd.
What the fuck? And again, what I think's happened is just a complete incompetency when dealing with the game's engine.
Fuck.
I am fucking tired.